You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about how everyone needs a break, even galaxy-saving soldiers. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And joining us for part 1 of the Citadel DLC is Carter Hallett.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're really excited to have you on. Why don't you start by telling folks a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's weird to introduce myself as Case's wife, but that's how I would start, I guess.
Spouse of Case.
Listeners might know me as Case's wife. Let's see, what do? I work by day in digital marketing and for an agency in Maryland, and I am a very creative person. So what brought me to Mass Effect was kind of looking for video games that have storytelling and something compelling to follow along with, and kind of the variety and the pacing that I've learned that Mass Effect is really good at. So
awesome. Well, and so let's go a little deeper with your Mass Effect experience, because I know, being your friend, but the listeners won't, that you're very, very new to Mass Effect, newer than any of our other guests.
Yes. So I started... When did I start playing the first Mass Effect game?
Consulting with the husband.
Started in
Before the pandemic?
No, it was like the spring of the pandemic.
Okay, so let's just blame the pandemic. So I started the first Mass Effect game somewhere around last spring at the beginning of COVID pandemic. I've played a few other games all the way through, but I never thought of myself as like a gamer person. And then I like stopped and looked back and was like, I mean, you played all of Breath of the Wild. Like you've played multiple. I played all of Skyrim. That's a pretty big game.
Yeah, that is. That's a hefty game.
So Case suggested Mass Effect. I had actually seen him play as well. Like I would, be coming in and out of the room when he was playing, so I knew a little bit about it. And I thought, well, I obviously have time. The pandemic, I'll try it. And then I was like very hooked, and I played all 3 games right in a row.
Nice.
Amazing. I love that.
So you are in a good position to remember what your ideal choices are leading up to Mass Effect 3. Do you remember if you leaned more Paragon or Renegade?
I do remember, and I actually checked before I got on with you guys because I wanted to like be accurate here. So that's probably also says something about my personality. But so I did not intentionally choose Paragon or Renegade. Instead, I was thinking, how would I actually react like myself to most of the choices, unless I knew for sure that like there would be some other impact or result that was coming from the choice. So I kind of ended up pretty middle of the road, because when I was like annoyed with a character or like just didn't have time and wanted to get on to whatever was happening, I would renegade just to get through it.
I love it.
But I also tried to, there are like obviously these big ethical and moral questions in the game. And so like there, it was very clear to make Paragon choices to me there. Not because I'm saying like, oh, that's, just because it's such a personal philosophical game as well. So I think like,
yeah,
you can either play a character that's very different from how you are, or try to kind of figure out like, what are the choices you would make if you were in this world.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty close to our essentially mission statement of the podcast.
Yes.
Me and MJ playing as ourselves, which we hadn't really done before. We sort of had, but like it was more conscious this time for sure. But I like that for you. It was like kind of unconscious, but kind of conscious. Like this idea like, well, I'm just going to make the decision based on the experience. That fits in really close. I'm curious what classes you played. Since this is your first time through, did Case advise on it at all, or did you just pick what you liked?
Well, so I was coming off playing Skyrim, and so I had liked playing Skyrim in an infiltrator type class, because since I am like newer to video games, I don't like heavy combat, like it gets like overwhelming very quickly. So I liked the ability to kind of play in more stealth mode, do interesting like problem solving things. So I played as an infiltrator class, but I will say that once I actually started playing Mass Effect, it wasn't exactly comparable. Like in Skyrim, when you play as like an infiltrator character, like you totally skip big battles. You can like, there's like side ways to do things, and you can't quite do that in Mass Effect. So I ended up being like very heavily skilled in rifles.
Nice. Very nice.
Excellent.
What was the outcome of your confrontation with the Arachnite Queen?
Yeah, so going back to like these big moral ethical questions that I think the game does a really good job of like presenting a nuanced perspective about. I mean, this one is less nuanced to me because it was like totally wipe out a race and commit genocide. No, thank you. So so I saved her, and that I didn't even really think about it because as I was understanding the gameplay, it happened so early, and I was just starting to understand that choices that I made in the earlier games would come back later. And so I will say, I'm the type of person that, like, when I was a kid and I was reading the Choose Your Own Adventure book, I would, like, put my finger in the book so I could go back and change if I changed my mind, you know? Like, I had to understand every possible outcome. So I did start to, like, read game guides after that just to, like, I wanted to know what the impact was before I made the choices.
I love that. That's really funny.
I was going to say something that I thought was funny, but then my brain stopped working.
It's all right.
2 hours of sleep.
Oh, no.
Anyway, we got another one. We got another one that doesn't believe in genocide.
Yes.
I mean, do you get many guests who are saying, like, I felt great about that, or...
No, thankfully, no.
So far, not yet.
Yeah.
This is really the vetting process. This is how we make sure that they're okay.
Right.
And if they say yes to genocide, then we're like, okay, the show is over now. Thank you for joining us today.
Have a good day, sir.
I said good day.
Who was your Vermeer survivor? And I'm curious about this, especially since you have no context. You know nothing about Ashley and Caden other than the time you spent with them, which I can't remember what that's like because that's 8 playthroughs ago.
So this is one of the decisions I remember being the first decisions that was like starting to get hard, where it was like, wait a second, you know?
Yeah.
And I will say also in comparison, like, the storytelling is not as deep in Mass Effect 1 as it is, of course, in the later games, too. So I was going off of, like, what we thought we knew at the time. I also was, like, already flirting with Caden. So I was like, that's what's going to happen. Ashley and I had some strange conversations on the lower level of the ship where she, like, said some, like, kind of racist things. And I was like, So I just, you know, I chose the bro before the hoe. I don't know.
I love that. What about the council? Did you punish them for not paying attention to you, or did you save their asses?
I saved them because I wanted them to owe me one. So I mean, I did save them, but I was like, you know, like pissed about it. I was like, you guys don't deserve this, but I'm a really good shepherd, so I'm gonna save you.
Who did you choose to serve as the human counselor?
So this was one of the first times where when I was playing the game and Case would come by and be like, what'd you do today? You know, what happened? And I told him what I did. He was like, are you kidding me?
Oh, no.
I picked Udina. And it was because I really didn't understand. I'd like to defend myself by saying I didn't really understand what I was doing there. It sort of happened, and then afterwards, Case was like, there's another mission, not to sidetrack from your list, but there's another mission. What's the mission where you, like, go to this base, and at the end, it's like, do you want to warn people that the bombs are coming to blow up their planet? Or do you want to know them? And I was like, no, I'm good. And Case was like, what are you doing? So I very occasionally did these, like, you know, renegade-y things that I didn't realize that were kind of renegade-y. So I picked Udina. I also didn't think that Anderson really wanted to be on the council. And so I was like, he is obviously the better person, but I thought like he was going to join my ship and like we would now get to go fight space battles together. And that didn't happen.
All right. I mean, there's a logic there to some degree.
What became of Rex?
Yes. So I was trying to save everybody and keep everybody like alive as much as possible in the game, but especially Rex, because I think it's such a great relationship that you have with him. So I definitely talked him down and kept him alive. But then throughout the rest of the game, like as soon as there was like anything where it was like, do you want to keep this news from Rex? I was like, no, I'm telling Rex about the Solarians. Like the Rex is my friend. I don't know this lady. Like it was just very, very clear to me. And then at the end, you know, he was alive. Eve was alive. Like I tried to keep everybody alive, but not to get ahead of ourselves, but that's one of my favorite parts about this mission, about, being on shore leave, is that like everybody comes back and it's like the greatest hits, and Rex has like the best one-liners where you're fighting these battles and then all of a sudden he just like dives through a wall.
Another controversial choice. Did you kill or rewrite the heretic Geth?
This was also controversial in my marriage. Yes. So the Case and I have a thing about robots, I would say. Like, we have, Amazon Alexas through our house, and Case has conversations with them. He'll ask her the weather, and then he'll be like, "Thank you so much," and I'm like, what? You can't see my face. I'm grimacing, right? I'm like, Alexa did what she was asked. That's enough. And meanwhile, Case Aiken is like, well, just in case the machines ever rise.
I can't make fun of Case because I'm the same way.
Yes, my spouse is the same way. Sarah does the same thing.
It's just polite.
And I'm like, maybe I should take it more seriously, because it's not that I'm rude to her, but if the machines ever rise, she will not be looking out for me. So
maybe she will, because Case has been so kind.
That's true. She'll protect me for him. But so I felt that like the Legion character is really interesting, but I never felt like I bonded with him the same way. Perhaps because of my prejudice against the machines. But so I felt like, though it might have felt like you were saving Geth to rewrite them and allow them to learn and evolve, I also felt like that the rewriting itself was like controlling and brainwashy. So I killed them instead.
My logic was the same. This is the one choice where it's like many people have had different reasons for choosing the same choice, and I think that's always fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think there is a clear answer on this one.
The clear answer, as we've said many times, is
don't involve me.
It's not Shepard's decision. That's the clear answer.
It's a lot of very big galactic decisions that come down to one person. But I guess that's the whole game, so.
Now I'm curious to know what happened with the collector base.
I blew it up because fuck the elusive man.
Yes. You passed the test. That was the test.
That was the second.
I was like I said earlier, where I would just start doing renegade prompts if I was like over it. I could not stand the elusive man pretty early on, but definitely after a certain point when he when people show you who they are, you have to believe them, and he is a terrible person. And so I was like, no, even if there could have been something to learn from that technology, he was obviously corrupted by it, and there was, it was too dangerous to keep it.
I approve. How about your romances? Did you romance someone and stay true? Did you romance different people?
Yes.
How'd that go?
I romanced Caden. Only Caden.
Yeah.
But I watched YouTube videos of everybody else just so I could choose my own adventure and make sure I knew what the outcome was. So, yeah, I felt like Caden was the best choice in Mass Effect 1 for a female shepherd, which I don't think I mentioned that, but I played a female shepherd. It got weird in Mass Effect 2 because I was like, why? Like, what? Like, especially the relationship with Caden, where he was like, he shows up at the beginning and then he's like, bye for the rest of the game. And you're like, what? And I considered having an affair with Garrus, but I didn't. And then Caden comes back in 3, so.
All right.
I would like to point out it's not an affair.
Okay.
You were dead.
It's true. It's true.
He moved on. He started dating someone else. He tells you that. You're clearly broken up. It's
right.
Not an affair.
I know. And I'm like, I don't know why I in retrospect, I'm like, oh, especially because I watched the YouTube of the Garrus story and it's so good. I'm like, I should have just done that. But
it's the way you should have gone.
As a femship, you can enjoy the thrill of being with Caden all the way from the beginning. I had to wait till the third game, but we're together now, and that's
there you go, exactly.
And nothing's gonna break you apart.
No.
Well, until my next playthrough, at least. All right, well, why don't we jump into this meaty summary for part one?
It's so long.
Part one of our 3-part coverage of Citadel.
I would like to apologize to everyone in advance. This is so long. I tried to make it shorter, but I couldn't. It's finally time to take Admiral Hackett's advice to let the Normandy rest before our final push toward the big battle. Shepard visits Admiral Anderson's personal apartment only to learn he wishes to give it to them so they have a safe place to rest. After exploring the opulent apartment, Shepard is invited for sushi with their good friend Joker. The meal is interrupted by Maya Brooks, an analyst who discovered that Shepard is the target of some extreme identity theft. Maya is then interrupted by unknown mercenaries attacking the restaurant and looking for Shepard. After a harrowing fight that ends with Shepard falling through the fish tank floor and miraculously avoiding broken limbs, Shepard must make their way to a shuttle car landing pad, avoiding or engaging mercenaries as they go. Maya Brooks tries to keep your comms secure, but your friends keep popping up to sass you along the way. Next up is a brief heist where you must socialize, hack, and distract your way through a charity event at the casino, owned by the weapon smuggler responsible for supplying the mysterious person trying to steal your identity. Shepard, Maya, and another squad mate finally make their way to Elijah Khan, only to discover that someone got to him first and silenced him before Shepard could learn anything useful. That doesn't stop the commander, because with the cheek of someone who killed a Reaper on foot, they managed to trace the last comm call back to their target.
That was a lot, but great.
Told you it was a lot.
Now people, if they didn't before, understand why we broke it up into 3 parts.
Oh my god.
Carter, what is your favorite part of this section of the DLC? Because clearly, obviously, you were very excited to be part of this. Once we realized that originally, for a little background for the listeners, originally this was supposed to be 1 episode with the incredible Liana Rupert, who we love very dearly. But MJ was like, Matt, I know you haven't played this, but nah, ain't gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen.
And at that time, when we were making this decision, Case had mentioned that you, Carter, had gotten very into the games, and when opportunity arose that you might be able to come on the show, you were very excited to join us here. So again, I ask, what is your favorite part of this section of the DLC?
Can I just ask wait, so you haven't played Shore Leave at all?
At all.
This is his first time playing it. Matt, where did you stop in Shore Leave?
So I stopped a little past what we're covering here when we find out the identity of who stole your identity.
So we have to stick to anything that is revealed in this section, which is annoying for me because I have thoughts. Carter, I will message you my thoughts.
Yes. Okay. I will try to not spoil anything either.
We'll try. If I sense that you're gonna say something that Matt's gonna be like, "What?" I will stop.
Okay,
you.
good. Okay.
But do you have a favorite part of the section that we're covering today?
Yes. Yeah. So the overall thing that I would say, which is I'm checking myself to make sure I'm not spoiling anything, is the character development in this section is really fulfilling, especially if you know all the characters from having done full playthroughs in the past. And in fact, it also feels a little bit like this mission is, my understanding is, like, a lot of people feel you should play this after the conclusion. Like, it would be better placed in the timeline at the end of the full game, because then you could really appreciate everything. And it's sort of a weird thing at the end. So my favorite thing I would say is the character development, the ability to have more time with more characters who are not necessarily in Mass Effect 3 as much. And it's clearly designed, like, for the fans. Like, the dialogue is just really good and quippy. But more specifically about part 1 that we're talking about today is I'm obsessed with the apartment.
Right?
I'm fully obsessed with the apartment.
Gorgeous.
Such a beautiful apartment. Yeah, I'm so jealous.
Got it with that counselor money.
Well, and this isn't a spoiler. I'm going to keep checking myself every time. Like, I think one of the reasons I like it is because, you know, like I said at the top of this, I'm like, oh, I'm not really that big of a gamer. But then Case will be like, you did used to play The Sims a lot, you know, like you did. Like, I feel like for me, my background, not having grown up playing a lot of video games, I was like, I'm not really a gamer. And he's like, how long are you spending on these mobile app games? I mean, this is gaming. So because I have love for The Sims, the apartment is reminiscent of that, because it's, you know, like a home and you're exploring it. It allows you to do some customizations, but, like, not really. So I like the fact that you can, Mass Effect, you always are imagining what's happening, like, to the other characters when you're not in the room. But now that you have the apartment, you're like, oh, like, it shows you some of what's happening, but, like, it's a whole new place to explore.
I love that. That's such a great answer. Before we dive into the meat of this mission, MJ and I have some check-ins from the ship before we head over back to the Citadel. The first of which is some bonding over the comms between Joker and Liara, which is fun to hear because these are characters who spent a lot of time together over the 3 games, and you don't really see them interact a lot. And so this was a fun moment.
I don't know if I would necessarily call this moment bonding, because it is more, how can I phrase this? It is more empathizing with each other.
Okay, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that is more what's happening here, because Liara, in her desire to focus on anything that is not the fall of Thessia, she takes the time to look into Tiptree and see what's happening there, because she knows that Joker has family that is trying to escape Tiptree. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, she doesn't have great news. There's only one ship of survivors, and they're all children. And Joker has to have this very heartbreaking thought of, well, my sister's 15. Maybe she's one of the children who survived, and I only lost my dad.
Yeah.
And, from a personal standpoint, I don't have a great family relationship, so I maybe can't empathize with Joker in the same way. But still, that's gotta be a rough feeling to have, where you're like, well, hopefully only one person I love died.
Yeah, I mean, I'm as my parents get older, I'm facing stuff like that, mortality and all of that, and so like I totally get it. I do appreciate that it seems like Liara took the initiative just knowing that information and being the Shadow Broker, having the information regardless. Like, I appreciate that she reaches out to Joker and connects with him, and like they talk about this thing, because Liara doesn't have to share this information with Joker, but she cares enough too. And I think that's important, that as the Shadow Broker, she still cares about her friends. And this is a poignant moment where we see that, even the friends that she doesn't talk to as much.
Yeah, I like it because I think also when Liara becomes the Shadow Broker, like, we already know her so well that we know that, like, she's going to start using information for good, right? But this is, like, a very clear example of where she's doing that for like, her friends, people that she has loyalty to. And I think throughout the series, there are multiple times where members of the crew, we start to know about things that are happening. Like, I'm remembering things with, like, Garrus's family, when his homeworld is being attacked. And so it shows that they are deeper people with backstories and everything, but also that, like, I'm always struck by, like, that they're very much focused still on the mission and the task at hand, right? And so it's like Joker has made all these personal sacrifices, including his own body, to try to help this greater mission because he believes in it and he believes in Shepard.
And I do hope his little sister Gunny is on that ship.
Yeah, I would I mean, we don't actually get confirmation of that, do we?
I don't know. I don't think that we do, but
I don't think so either.
I also love that her name is Gunny.
Yeah.
It's a great name.
It's very cute.
We also, while in the cockpit, of course, get to have another in-depth conversation with Edie as she continues to discover her humanity. And this question is really interesting because it's about survival and what it's like to survive and continue on, and what to do to preserve your own survival, and not something she'd ever have to face because she's a robot that, even though she's an AI, she can put her brain is not in her body. And so, like, understanding those things is really interesting. And I like when we get to have these conversations, as uncomfortable as they make me feel, because I don't always know how to answer.
What I really liked about this conversation with Edie is that she's observing human behavior, and she's looking into the way that humans respond to being sent to concentration camps by Reapers, and how Reapers tell the humans that if you snitch on your fellow prisoners on who's trying to escape, you will not die today. You will get to live longer. And to Edie, it seems obvious that you should, like, try and extend your own life. But she's confused because people are either refusing to give information or they're giving misinformation in order to try and help other people escape and try and help with the survival of others. And to her, she doesn't super understand it right away, and she needs to kind of get these thoughts out in order to get to the place where she gets at the end of the conversation. I chose to say that people fight differently in this conversation, because it's true. Just because you are a civilian, because you don't have combat training, doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to stand up for what you believe in and to help other people. And I think it's really important, especially after the experience we just had on Sanctuary, to remember that there is this sense of goodness in people that when given the option of save your own life or make sure that someone else can get out alive, you choose to make sure that someone else gets out alive. Like, I don't want to call it being kind, because it's not really being kind. You're still being, like, fierce and strong and determined, but you're doing it on behalf of someone else. And it's because other people is what make our lives worth living for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And what's the point in survival if everyone else you know is dead?
Completely. And it's fun to fun. Interesting choice of words. It's interesting to watch Edie wrestle with this stuff, right? Because ultimately, you make Edie who she is to a degree because she relies on Shepard's opinion, and Shepard's thoughts shape who she is, which is not unlike any other human, right? We are shaped by the people around us. If you hang out with terrible people, your attitude towards certain things are going to be terrible, and vice versa. You know, like, for example, me being an idiot teenager, being surrounded by idiot teenagers, I said some terrible things when I was younger. Things I would probably not say or do now, but you don't know unless you're with someone who can show you the way, because parents and close family members can only do so much. And this is sort of like raising a child, talking to Edie also.
And I think it's one of the, like we talked about, Legion, and Legion trying to have his own understanding of humanity a little bit earlier. And I think it's interesting that the way that the game asks you this question multiple times in multiple ways to ultimately set you up for, like, the final question in the game, which is, like, what is the future of life going to be? And if what is the definition and who owns that concept, right? And so it's not always logical, but being right isn't always logical. And so it's really kind of asking you, the player, like, what is right? What is the right choice in general?
Edie does decide to modify her programming to emphasize the survival of others over her own survival, because she looks at Jeff and what she has with Jeff and how important he is to her, and how, thanks to him, she now has this slice of humanity that she can experience. He rescued her, basically, from a life of enslavement to her AI shackles. And when Shepard says, like, is it worth fighting for? I got really emotional when Edie said to the death.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's interesting to watch this character fall in love, right? Because we knew her as an AI, but ostensibly a robot, that didn't have free will to any degree, and didn't initially. But with the shackles off, she really is becoming a person, and it's really interesting to see how that forms. And it's clear that the propelment of it is through Joker, through Jeff.
Also, before we move on, quick rest in peace to Cal Rieger. Pour one out for our homie.
Yeah. So the next part, we wander down to the poker room and the bar, and we see one Tali Vas Normandy by herself, slumped over a drink at the bar.
My poor muffin. For a minute, I forgot why she was getting drunk. I was just like, did Sanctuary hit you that hard? It wasn't even like your people. Like, your people have a place. What's going on here? And it was dad stuff. Of course it was dad stuff. It's always dad stuff.
Yeah. And so she is drinking to Miranda, but not because she particularly liked Miranda in any which way, but mostly because of what Miranda had the strength to do in that situation, and how it reminded her of the strength she had to have when discovering the truth about her father and having to interact with the Quarian people and kind of redeem him and redeem herself and that kind of stuff. And, of course, there are a lot of classic moments during this whole conversation, but the most quoted, memorable line is, of course, how she chooses to describe a straw.
Yes. How are you getting drunk? Very carefully. Turian brandy, triple filtered, injected into the suit using an emergency induction port. Tally, that's a straw. Emergency induction port. Which I'm having difficulty getting into the slot. Maybe that means it's working.
It's just such a good moment, because it also, like, what this game has done better than the first two, I think, is that we get some genuinely human moments. What a choice of words, right? But genuinely, like, real feeling moments. Like, Tali getting drunk feels very real, in the same way talking to Garrus about his family and how they might not make it felt very real, and so on and so forth. And I tend to like comedy over tragedy, but drinking is its own kind of tragedy also, right? Like, because drinking is a depressant, and often folks drink when they're sad. They don't only drink when they're sad, but a lot of the times depicted in media especially they are. And that's definitely this moment. Like, she's definitely sad. She's thinking about her father, but it's still very delightful and silly as well.
As a person who deals with dad stuff, I empathize, there's that word again, with Tally a great deal on this. Especially, I felt bad, actually, while Tally is talking about how she felt about Miranda and Miranda's triumph over her father, because I made Tally come with me, and Tally had to watch that. And I was just like, oh, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have been here for this. I forgot that was gonna happen. But, like, that would have required me having foreknowledge, and Shepard isn't psychic, right. And, like, I'm not psychic, right. So there's no way Shepard could have known, okay, so Miranda's gonna punch her dad through this pane of glass. Maybe Tally shouldn't come with me. There's no way I could have known. I brought Tally with me because she's one of the people that I trust most on the squad. So I don't regret that choice, but I also regret it a little.
Yeah. I feel like the other thing that's interesting, too, is this is, I think, after Tally comes to the realization about her dad and starts, I don't want to say grow up because that makes it sound like she's not grown up in the first part, but I think she starts becoming more independent and making choices based on what she knows to be true and less only based on the expectations of her people and the great responsibility she feels. And so, like, this is a funny way where she's taking these, like, small risks of drinking, of breaching her suit, you know, because she's like, this is not a calculated risk, but, like, she's like, I can't deal with this right now, and I need to do what I think is best. And there's a couple of other things she does over the rest of the mission that are maybe also calculated risks, so I thought it was interesting characterization, too.
I wrote down this amazing quote that she had, which was, when do we get to stop reacting to our parents and start living for ourselves?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, what an amazing... She's so great at expressing her thoughts in a poetic and beautiful way. And I love listening to her. Even when she's drunk, she's incredible.
Yeah. And, like, it's something that hits close to home for me now because... And I've brought this up on other podcasts. I feel like, especially during the pandemic for a lot of adult children, there's been a shift. I feel more like a parent to my parents than I ever did before, both with just stuff going on during the pandemic, stuff like with my own father's health and stuff I've talked about in other places. Like, and this moment was like, oh yeah, being an adult sucks to some degree, but also it's like, does that ever go away? Essentially, Tally's like wondering, like, when, even with my father no longer being around, when can I live for myself? When will I not think about my father? And the reality is probably never, right? Like, you're always going to some degree, but, like, it's interesting to watch her wrestle with it while also being very sloppily drunk.
As a member of the Dead Dad Club, I always say that the best way you can honor or defy your father is to live your best possible life. Mm-hmm. And whichever it ends up being, that's the best possible outcome.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This check-in is very well paired with when we go to visit Javik. Apparently, Tali is no longer drinking alone and has decided to give Javik a call, which, like, yes, I'm here for driving Javik crazy.
I love her drunk dialing Javik because she gets like, you care about Liara, you like her.
And he just gets so indignant.
He's just like, no, I needed her to be functional, and you are not being functional right now. You need to go sober up. And she's like, aw, you like me too. I'm just like, I don't think that he does, but I appreciate that you're doing this.
Yeah. It's just also an interesting dichotomy because there's not a lot of depth here, right? It's Tali being goofy and it's our Imperial Lord being annoyed. Like, that's this conversation, but it's very quickly paired by one of the more in-depth conversations that Shepard has with Javik, and you learn about his tragic backstory. And this is a moment that frustrates me more than anything else, I think, in this game, is, as we've talked about on many previous episodes for the third game, I've turned around on Javik. I used to think he was a really cool, interesting character, whereas now I just realize he's an imperialist bastard and he sucks. But this backstory does make me feel for him, and what I hate is that I feel like not only is he an imperialist, but I think he's poorly written, because I think there's a way to make him narrow-minded, and make him kind of an asshole, but still make him someone you can empathize with. There's that word again. Like someone that we can relate to on a level or still feel bad for, because really after the initial waking up process, he doesn't give us a reason to feel sorry for him that often.
He doesn't. And I think that they intended there to be more parallels between Javik and Shepard, because as he says, you were both resurrected to fight the Reapers.
Right.
And I wish there were more moments of parallels between them. There really aren't. Not even when we get into that tragic backstory. Though, Matt, I do want to ask you a question. Did he say anything creepy to you about Caden?
No, I think he comments on my relationship with Caden, but I don't recall anything standing out.
It felt real creepy to me. Maybe it's just because I'm looking at it through a feminine lens. Yeah. Carter, do you recall having that experience?
I can't remember exactly what he said, but I do remember a weird conversation with him. And I will say that my thing with Javik, again, I only did one playthrough, is I felt like the character was half missing. Like there was like more that I expected, but also I was just really tired of him mansplaining to me, so I just kept being like, skip, 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 renegade, renegade, renegade.
That's legit. I mean, definitely his context changes when you're FemShep, for sure.
I think so, because he goes, you and the Turian are joined. And I'm just like, you didn't have to say it like that. And you go, what?
Yeah, I feel like he comments on my relationship with Caden, but not like in a homophobic way. I think just questioning it or questioning my clarity of vision because of it. The typical Javik garbage, but nothing that stood out enough that I wrote notes about it.
And we find out about this Echo Shard, which is passed along from Prothean to Prothean, soldier to soldier, and you keep adding and adding and adding your memories to it. It's like a little miniature beacon. And here's the question for all of us, right? If your options are you don't remember any of the people that you love, but you also don't remember that pain, or you remember all those people, but you're constantly grieving for them, what do you choose?
I mean, I chose what my Shepard chooses in this moment, which is to know them and know the pain. I feel like you're defined by your past and your trauma, which we've talked about on the show too. And I think ignoring it and not grieving, even if you have to grieve more because of it, will kind of lock out the person you really are. You're kind of ignoring a part of yourself.
Carter, how do you feel?
I made the same choice, and I think it, again, like these big questions that this game asks, and you kind of don't realize like how deep they're getting. I think it comes down to this question of like, what is when you love something or someone, what is the wager, right? So like, what is, maybe that's not exactly the clearest word, but like, what is the payment for the joy of the love? And it's the pain, right? So like, for example, when you love a pet, your time is limited, but you don't love them less. And so I think it's interesting. I just read a novel, a totally separate book, that was all about this question of like, if you could live forever, but nobody would ever remember you, is it worth it? You remember everybody and you remember everything, but nobody will ever even remember your name, but you'll live forever. And so it's kind of this interesting central question about humanity, which is how do we put value on these experiences and the highest of highs and the lowest of lows?
What about you, MJ?
I agree with both of you. I think that the pain ultimately makes things worthwhile. Like, as difficult as things were with my father, and as much as I have anger mingled with my grieving, I don't think I would want to forget him, because despite his racism and homophobia and overall just awful personality, he taught me to stand up for marginalized communities. He taught me to fight back against bullies. He taught me to fight for what I believe in. And then had the audacity to say, but no, not like that. So a lot of the things that I think are good things about myself, I did get from my dad. Like, I love stories and books and things with good narratives because my dad taught me to love those things, even though he thought that I took them a little too far. My dad introduced me to a lot of things that are core aspects of my personality, but then didn't understand when I developed them and grew them beyond what he could understand.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's very easy. Like we've talked about in the past, like I introduced you to Mass Effect, but you wouldn't have even been open to a game like Mass Effect if it weren't for your father, because he played games like that long before I showed you Mass Effect.
I mean, I don't know if that is necessarily true. Like,
Fair
it's
enough.
true that my father played Mass Effect, but I don't know if he had anything to do with, like, me playing it. Because, honestly, if my dad had just been like, hey, you should play this, I probably wouldn't have. I think it took you saying, like, hey, you should play this.
Fair enough.
So, you should give yourself more credit.
All right, I will.
Do we have... Oh, I do have one other thing that I want to say about Javik, but do we feel that we have parsed his tragic backstory enough?
Yeah, I think so.
I have a funny thing where he says, I will never... He says, people keep asking me what I eat. I will never tell them so they can't poison me. By the way, you keep fish in your cabin, right? Leave my fish alone.
Don't you dare. If Trainer finds out that you've been eating my fish, she'll stab you.
You wonder why they
stay away from my
dying, because Javik's having snacks.
No wonder they keep going missing.
I'm going to count every fish in my fish tank now every time I go back to my cabin. I'm watching you.
I just wanted to end on that note, so that way we weren't constantly sad. Cool. Do we want to talk about the apartment?
Yeah. So when you choose to go to Anderson's apartment and you arrive, Anderson pops up on the vid screen and tells you exactly what we talked about in the summary. Anderson, the best dad in the world, feels like you should have a place to call your own home, a place where you can rest, where you can come back to, and gives you his apartment. He just is like, yeah, you can have this thing. Who knows when I'll be back? And like, I was thinking about settling down there, but now I don't know that I want to leave Earth. It's yours. Enjoy. Which is like, damn.
I try to say no. I was like, no, that is way too much. No.
I did the same thing. It's a mood. Like when someone offers me a really extravagant gift, which doesn't happen often, but it has happened in my life, I'm just like, are you sure? Like, are you sure?
This makes me uncomfortable.
Meanwhile, I was like, yes, thank you. I do deserve a space apartment. Yes. I've saved the galaxy twice now. Thank you.
Know your worth, Tyler.
Yeah. Exactly.
God, I wish I knew my worth like you do. Like, this apartment is just out of this world. The windows are huge. You have a grand piano.
There's a jacuzzi room. Just a whole room for jacuzzi.
Right. One of the 4 bathrooms or 3 bathrooms.
There's like 4 bedrooms. You have an office, a pool table. Like, what? This is wild.
A bar.
You have 2 bars. 2 bars.
Yes, 2 bars. You are correct. It's so much. So very much. And it's overwhelming.
Yeah, it's a lot. And like, so this is my first time playing. And when my first playthrough, I didn't stream on Twitch, but I did stream in our Discord. And MJ ended up watching me play some of it. And the minute I walked in, I was just kind of like, what is this? This is wild. And then, of course, on the coffee table, the minute you walk in, is a data pad. And the data pad is an excerpt from Admiral Anderson, talking about a section of his book that he is trying to write, his autobiography. And I click on it, and of course, it's Keith David being Keith David. He's awesome. And I forget which one of the stories was the first one I clicked on, but then I said out loud, I was like, man, I could listen to a whole audiobook of just Keith David.
Get ready.
Like,
Keep walking.
Good news for you.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what MJ said. And then, of course, I proceeded to wander through the apartment,
right,
clicking on all of these data pads. He talks about, the First Contact War. He talks about Shepard. He talks about being in the military in the early days, the building of the Normandy, all of these really pivotal Anderson moments that we get tiny bits of when talking to him directly, but it's so cool to hear the story of this celebrated character that also MJ and I assume Carter, deeply love on a parental level. It's just really awesome. And also Keith David, like I could listen to him do anything. Whether he's Spawn, whether he's Admiral Anderson, whether he's Goliath, like it doesn't matter. Like he's just got the best voice.
I know. I wished that you could have like had him in the apartment with you. Like I kept wishing for like more character hangs, and for more people to just like come over and like have the ability to like have these conversations, which are great for getting to know them, but not necessarily contributing to like the game progression. because it's just a nice pause, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want us to talk about like every single data pad, but does anyone have a favorite that they want to talk about?
Favorite. I mean, I think my favorite is him talking about Shepard, because it actually teared me up, because like, again, MJ and I are playing this game as if we are the character, and like, look, I'm a sucker for compliments. I take them better than I did, but I don't take them well. But like, to hear this person I feel like is a father to me as this character talk so kindly about me and so pragmatically and frank about me was amazing. It's really sweet. It's really well done.
Also, I feel like there's a huge difference between someone complimenting you to your face and you hearing about a compliment that they paid you.
Yeah.
Like, you maybe weren't ever supposed to hear what he says about you and how, like, you're a hell of a person and there's absolutely no one who comes close to you. And to hear that he said it, knowing that you might never hear it, it tells you that he really meant it.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't say it just to say it.
Yeah, I think that one was my favorite one too. And then I'm trying to remember. I can't remember all of them, but is that on a data pad too, where we learn about his lady friend?
Yes.
You mean his first wife, or about Kaylee?
I think Kaylee, who was from the academy, right? Okay, yeah.
Yes, I believe so. I don't think I found that data pad. There's so many of them.
Because I won't tell the spoiler, but there is like another cute little nugget about his relationship with Kaylee that comes in one of your character hangouts that comes a little bit later in this DLC.
Amazing.
It takes place in the jacuzzi room, just FYI.
Thank you.
One thing that I really liked, one of the data pads said, I'm a sucker for quotes and I write them down. This quote was, "Sometimes you just gotta howl to make things right."
Yeah. Yeah, yes, there's some good stuff. There also, you get to hear a segment of him being interviewed by Elisa Al-Jalani, who has come a long way from someone that you may or may not have punched in the first game.
I did. I punched her.
Because she's my original Shepard was a femme shep, and I also punched her. But as male shep, I didn't, for a myriad of reasons.
Okay.
But like,
she was so soft with him.
Yeah, she cares a lot more. She understands a lot more.
I think she also has a crush on him.
Yeah, that
probably.
that could be it too. Actually, she did sound a little flirty with him in the
right?
interview. Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, he's a handsome man.
He is a handsome man. It's true.
But like, it's just really cool that we get to know even a character that you assume you already know, like Anderson. We get to learn so much more in this DLC, and I appreciate that, because it's very easy. They could have not done that, and we would have probably been satisfied. We wouldn't have felt short-shrifted on our knowledge of Anderson without those data pads. But they're great, and I want them compiled into a book, so I can read/listen to them whenever I want.
I would like to move us along to sushi time, unless either of you have anything else to say about the apartment.
Yeah, so I'll lead off, because again, this is new to me. My favorite thing is like Shepard's walking down the stairs, Shepard gets into the line and then like gets waved down to the front by the host. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, Shepard, your friend is waiting." And like, as Shepard comes down the stairs, he's getting dirty look after dirty look after dirty look from the people stuck in line. And it's great. And it's clear that it makes Shepard uncomfortable on so many levels. And I love it. It's just a very Shepard moment.
One of my favorite things is that everyone who works here is French in this Japanese restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, I get it that it's space and like borders aren't necessarily a thing anymore, like the way we currently think of them, but
it seems odd.
Culturally, something is amiss.
Unless it's a French-Japanese fusion restaurant.
Oh my god.
I remember being annoyed that the whole restaurant got destroyed before we even got to place an order. I wanted to at least see the menu.
Right? I'm curious if I had.
This restaurant is just like floor to ceiling, literally floor to ceiling fish tanks.
Yeah.
What could go wrong? What could go wrong?
I felt so unsafe walking out onto this tank. And it could have been my memories, but it was also like, oh, if I was here in person, I would hate every single second of this.
I have a fear of heights, so I would have been terrified in actual life. But yeah, we get to go in and we have a seat with Joker, who believes, like, is really excited about the meal and like believes that we deserve, a treat, and we're gonna be here for a while anyway. But we don't really get to talk to Joker for very long, but before someone is kind of flailing at the entrance of the restaurant.
Before we talk about Maya Brooks, I want to shout out some more quotes.
Please.
As Carter said, it's so quippy, it's so bantery, it's so good.
Yeah.
Shepard says, I'm the first human Spectre. I'll get you 2 umbrellas. Awesome use of power, boss. I love the writing.
He feels bad
it's
about
so
cutting
snappy.
the line, but 2 umbrellas, that's the right level for Shepard.
Yeah. But like, it's also great because like, that these two are best friends, right? They've known each other so long and you've seen those moments, but this is like one of the more, again, human, like real, like moments that they get to share that feels very personal. That's not about Edie, right? Because there are a lot of personal conversations about Edie, but this is truly a moment with the boys, just being boys, unless you're not a boy.
Or the Sibs.
The Sibs, yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
I like that, yeah.
Like siblings.
That's a good point. I didn't really think about that, but he's one of the only people who's with you the whole time, because literally as soon as you come back with Cerberus, he's already there. And it's interesting because in my, I don't know if he really says this, but in my like head canon of it, like the whole time he knew and was like, I'm just here to like back you up as soon as like you snap out of it, and we'll figure out how we use all this Cerberus stuff for like our purpose. But he feels like the most connected and throughout, even though you don't get as many great dialogue stuff because like he's in the cockpit the whole time,
Yeah. More scenes with Joker.
Yes, please.
But as Matt was leading up to, we do see a flailing Alliance officer named Maya Brooks, who comes over to tell us that, surprise, surprise, there are people trying to kill us.
Yeah, and my favorite moment, and MJ got to witness this live while I was playing. Maya Brooks goes, Shepard, someone's trying to kill you. And Joker and Shepard just look at each other. They exchange a glance, and I lost it. I'm like, really, you don't say. Half the galaxy's trying to kill me. What's your point? It's like,
who's gonna tell her?
Yeah. And then like, I love Maya Brooks so far, like, but I had to warm up to her in this early moment, especially because I think I was playing like when I was relaxing on a Saturday, or maybe I was playing it on Friday or whatever. But like I was getting impatient. I was like, spit it out. I get it. You're nervous. Got a lot going on. I'm sorry. Please tell me what's up, but spit it out. Because she's stammering and she's nervous and she's scared. And I just didn't feel very patient in that moment.
I also didn't have much patience for her. And I feel like there are a few characters like her throughout the game. Like I did not like Kelly in Mass Effect 2, or not Kelly in Mass Effect 3, whose name I don't even remember because I didn't like her that much.
You don't like Trainer?
What's her name?
Oh no, Trainer.
No, I didn't like her. But it was because this is like my perception was like this, like that this helper character who's here to help you kind of like navigate and understand like what's going on and fill in the backstory. And I think I just didn't have patience with that part of it. I would be like, get to the point with each of them. And so then I found out that I like missed some interactions with Kelly, for example, because I was just like, no, you can't come to my cabin. No, you can't come over here. Like, this is strange. But I had the same problem with Maya, because I was like, oh, is this your role? And then that's not quite her role. So it's interesting. She has layers.
She is an interesting character when we first meet her. She's very bumbly, and she can get a word in edgewise because she's tripping over herself, and she has a lot of skills that we discover later. And I don't know. I wish that I could say more about her. We just have to wait and see.
There's a lot we can't
we'll
say.
Just have to wait and see. But not too long after, this dedicated Alliance officer tries to tell us what's going on, guys in full suits of armor start shooting up the restaurant. And so
my favorite thing about these guys coming in is the host saying, excuse me, you need a reservation. Like, do you not see them?
They're
do you not see them in armor, armed to the teeth, with several, like, they have guns. Do you think they care?
But I will say, counterpoint, everybody's kind of walking around in full armor and gear like most of this game, so maybe the host I mean, except for they are already firing. But, like, the host is completely nonplussed by seeing, like, heavy weaponry. It's just, oh, they're actually using it now.
I don't know. No one in this restaurant is wearing armor.
Yeah.
So I think this restaurant has a dress code.
That's true. And that's right. Shep wears their fancy outfit depending on which one you've picked for them. So,
well, we'll get to that later. But Kaden has comments about how I'm dressed. But yeah. So shooting starts. Of course, Shepard kicks over a table, and him and Joker plop behind it. Well, Joker plops. You go down on a knee. And Shepard's like, all right, well, Joker, you should go get the team, try and get help, and just go get help. And he's like, okay. And then as he's walking away, you're like, thanks, I need a distraction, grab a pistol. And Joker is walking off into the distance going, you used me as bait.
Savior of the Citadel uses brittle bones guy as bait.
It's such a good line. I nearly spit water all over my desk.
There's so many good lines. One of the mercenaries shouts, "Where'd she get a gun?"
Yeah, the same. Where did he get a gun?
Like, well.
And so we have to fire our way out of here. We get this awesome silenced pistol that I wish I had sooner in the game. You don't like this gun?
I hated this gun. I want my Talon back. I'm so angry.
Oh, I love
this gun. Made me so angry.
Is the Talon like a very high powered one? Because I was frustrated because I was like, I want an assault rifle. I want to just take everybody out.
I use heavy pistols exclusively. I don't like using other guns, and the Talon is my favorite heavy pistol. And I hated this gun. It was not my Talon. I wanted it back.
And so we start to fight our way out of the restaurant. But of course, shit starts to go south. As we're trying to leave, Maya gets shot. But is okay. Doesn't die, we don't think. And then, of course, we go crashing through the fish tanks, through the floor. The whole restaurant gives out from below us. And
this whole DLC is an action movie.
It is. It is literally, and like Shepard sliding down the side of this like building or several buildings. Once we get to our feet, we get contacted by Maya, who is very peppy because she used too much Metagel, which is not a side effect to Metagel that I knew, but was very funny.
I wish it was like a side effect where if you like took too much, you got like, Mario's hyperspeed or something.
Right.
So at this point, C-Sec is locking down the Silver Sun Strip because of the attack. And Shepard has to try and traverse these walkways to get to the shuttle landing pad. And that is when your significant other chimes in on the comms.
And Maya yells at them, saying, "Get off this line. It's compromised. You're going to get Shepard caught."
Garrus sounds so worried. He's like, "Are you okay?"
Caden also was like, "Are you all right? What happened?" And it's just Maya starts grilling them. "Who are you? How'd you get this number?"
So I have to tell you the best line from Garrus. When you tell him, like, well, I was attacked by mercenaries. I could use some backup. Garrus goes, "Lucky for you, Archangel is your boyfriend."
Oh, I love
That's
that.
a good one.
Like,
that's a good line.
I am lucky. Please meet me at the shuttle bay.
Yeah, I don't remember Caden's exact line, but it's something along those lines, and he says he's on his way.
What do we know about these mercenaries? They have guns and they don't like me.
I don't want to jump ahead, but I like what Caden says afterward at the Sky Car lot. Am I skipping? Should I hold this thought?
Hold it for a little bit.
Hold it for just a moment. Okay. So now we have to fight our way through what looks like a grocery store or some like grocery areas. Like there are bins filled with things that look like food.
And data pads telling other people to stop licking the fruit. They had too much fun writing like these little ancillary details.
Yeah, that some people may never even see. But then as we continue to fight through, we get a call from James Vega, who's also concerned about us.
I did not get a call from Vega.
Oh, really? Who'd you get a call from?
Liara.
Oh,
interesting.
I got Vega too.
I brought Vega on a lot of missions. That's interesting. And Vega is just like, "What's going on, boss? You okay? What happened? I heard you destroyed the restaurant." The first of many times that many people will bring up the destruction of that sushi restaurant.
Get off my fucking dick. I did not intentionally destroy the restaurant. It was not something I did. It was something that was done to me. You can't even eat the food there.
Everybody just wanted the French-Japanese fusion. Everybody else just was like, this is the best meal you could get. Now it's destroyed.
They don't even serve dextro food.
We'll get to that.
I can't.
So, as a Vanguard, it was fairly easy to battle through here because even though I only had the pistol and I didn't have my armor or other weapons, I had a biotic Hadouken and my charge. So I was able to still maneuver in battle. The layout is interesting, kind of a pain in the ass. I did die a couple of times just because it's kind of hard to navigate through what is effectively a flea market.
I didn't die, but I definitely struggled. It didn't help that you lose so much health after your fall. And you start to get your health back when you get more people in your party. Like when I got Garrus, my health got back up to half. It was just, I didn't love this fight through because I guess it's intended for you to be sneaky, and I'm like, no.
I just want to kill everybody and move on.
I don't want to. You can't make me.
Meanwhile, I remember this battle taking such a long time because I was trying to be sneaky and like use all the cover that was provided, and I just was like, like I have to get around this corner and to my waypoint that I'm trying to reach, and it was like, just took a long time to get through in the way that it felt like the game was trying to direct me. But that also is like my preferred play style. And I do remember at this point in the game, I would turn up or down the difficulty. And sometimes for these like heavy plot parts, I would play it on a lower difficulty just because I really wanted to get to the story. And I was like, this is keeping me from the story, so I'll just make it easy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I do want to highlight that your romantic interest was very approving of your outfit.
Yes. Oh, so I was about to mention that. So when you reunited with your, for me, when I was reunited with Caden, well, we could talk about what we were wearing. I was wearing the Shepherd leather jacket, jeans, tight t-shirt combo, and like Caden mid-sentence is like, he had some like grand thought and went, "You look really nice, by the way," and like completely just stammers off, loses his thought process. It's adorable. He just gets lost in acknowledging how hot you look.
FemShep was wearing the leather dress that has like the little N7 emblem on it because everything else looks awful.
Yes,
it's
agree.
the only good outfit. Everything else is terrible and it makes me angry. And Garrus also, mid-thought, gets distracted and goes, "Nice outfit." And then he looks at you, he's like, "Right, being shot at. We'll like be obsessed with how hot my girlfriend is later. First, let's shoot him up, right? He'll be fine."
I also did share a GIF of this when I tweeted that I was starting this DLC. Caden, at least, I don't know about Garrus, but Caden has this swagger as he walks up to you, and he's still glowing from his biotic armor.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I was just like, oh, man, all right. I made a good choice.
There's apparently, I don't think this is one of the examples, but apparently, if you are true to Caden throughout all of Mass Effect 2, you get a couple of extra lingering scenes. Did you guys know about this part?
No.
I did not know about this.
So this is only because I
have never been true to Caden.
This is only because I read the game guides. But so when in Mass Effect 3, once Caden's out of the hospital and he shows up at the ship and basically says like, "Will you take me back?" You say yes, and then you get a literal butt shot for more than 60 seconds of Caden walking on, and it's like supposed to be your reward for being true to Caden.
I love that.
I mean, I guess that's a good reward. I don't know.
Not your type. You prefer them skinny, scrawny, and bird-like.
I like them tall and spiky. When you finally make it to the car lot and it's time to get out and the doors are locked, Shepard has this first instinct, which doesn't super make sense to me, especially if you've been playing as a Paragon Shepard, to shoot through the glass to get to the little Volus who has access to the controls. And I don't know why that is my first instinct, because I've been, like, pretty diplomatic throughout this whole game. I feel like it's not elite for Shepard to knock on the glass and say, "Hi, can you open that up for me, please?"
Well, I think it was for comedy's sake. Because
it was for comedy, but it still didn't make sense.
Because the moment right after is like, for me, Caden stops you, and then Caden knocks, and he opens the door, And Shepard immediately goes, I could have done that.
It's also very Canadian when Caden does it. Like, he's like, excuse me, could you please? And I feel like there's several times throughout this DLC where Caden's Canadianness is alluded to. And I love it every time. But he just, like, I had the same thing where, like, I was like, oh, just shoot, we're in pursuit. And the poor Volus is like,
I just don't want to die. Please leave.
Yeah. I feel so bad for him. And so in my notes, in big capital letters, I have one word. And I also texted this one word, this proper noun, to MJ as soon as this happens. But you're about to leave. You're going to get on the CKSX shuttle. And it's filled with mercenaries. And you think you're going to die. And then the man himself, Rex, drops from the sky.
While Shepard drags their love interest to safety.
And starts throwing bodies. And I literally texted MJ in all caps, Rex! I didn't see this coming. I had no idea.
It's a Krogan airdrop.
Krogan airdrop.
I just love that he literally throws and kicks them out of the shuttle.
Yeah.
He just, like, opens the door and he's like, yeah.
And his joy, like, throughout of it. Like, Grunt is the same way, but they're both, like, never happier than when they're dropping bodies, And so, like, he's happy to be there. You're happy to see him. Like, it's just, I feel like this undercurrent of all of this is, like, joyfulness.
Yeah. And then, like, right after that happens, you do more fighting while you're waiting to get picked up by Joker. And I realized he's in my party, and I got to spec him, and I was just very excited. I didn't know that I'd be able to use Rex as a party member in this DLC, a la, like, Liara rejoining you in 2 for Shadow Broker, and, like, I got very excited. What I love about Rex in this game is because in the first game, like, he has some good one-liners, but the one-liners got better throughout the games, and in this, like, it's Rex's personality throughout the trilogy in this distilled moment as he's calling everybody princess and flinging people across the map. Like, in the first game, he didn't really have a lot of melee attacks because, like, melee wasn't as interactive as it is in the third game. But, like, watching Rex grab someone and, like, headbutt them and they just go flying, it was pure joy.
Because Rex is also a Vanguard.
Yep. Sure is.
Then we are back at the apartment.
Yep, we are rescued and taken back to the apartment where we can strategize, and then
get sassed.
And then we are joined by more of our party as more folks enter the apartment and join us to help strategize. And this is where you're given a moment where you can kind of like talk to folks and get their take on the situation before talking to Liara, who's, of course, found more information because it's Liara, right? And the first person I chose to talk to was Tali, who immediately goes, on my pilgrimage, I couldn't... This gives this sob story.
Mad.
Gives this sob story about how on our pilgrimage she always dreamed of going to that restaurant, and it gives you hell for blowing it up, and that she'll never get to eat there. And as MJ said, it's like you can't even eat the food.
It's a fucking restaurant, Tali. Get off my dick. Let me live, okay? I don't need to hear about it because then it was Liara, then it was Tali. I can't with any of you. I'm so mad at all of you. Javik later.
Yeah.
So mad. Some notable moments for me is Joker is still not over the whole bait thing.
Yeah, it's the first thing he brings up.
I think he kind of liked it though. Like, I think that he's teasing you, right? But like there's...
I was part of the team.
Yeah, and like he was out of the ship for once. He was an important part of the diversion. What do you want, buddy? There's not much more you can do.
Ashley was kind of rude about Liara to me. I don't remember exactly what she said, but I remember being like, dang, girl, I thought you guys were friends. What's going on with you? Like, I know there was rivalry with, like, a male Shep in the first game, but that didn't happen here. You remember me, right?
I got to talk to Caden, who... talked about hoping to find a moment alone later and is glad that I'm safe, which he's very soft in the best way. I mean, he's our marshmallow. We talk about him in every episode that way, but like it was a fun, soft moment that was reassuring, which is Caden's MO.
Garrett said it took like 5 minutes before someone started shooting at you. I just want you to know that. Rex was so proud of his shuttle takedown. Javik is also an asshole about the fish. Brooks is distressed about having been shot and all the paperwork she's going to have to fill out now, and Shepard helpfully tells her it's faster if you make a template. Which is not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's right. I love that James is like, I'm so glad you're okay. Hey, what do you think Maya's deal is? Just like,
don't do it.
I'm like, James, stop it.
Girl, don't do it.
Girl, don't do it.
Especially when James's true love is really that shuttle pilot. We all know it.
Yeah, him and Esteban for life.
Yes.
I love that Steve is there, too.
Yeah, Steve is just there hanging out at the bar.
And saying, never have dinner with Joker. It never ends well. I love all of these idiots. They're my favorite idiots.
It's such great fan service in the best way. I really love it. But after checking in with everybody, we talk to Liara and Maya, who find out through the information that they traced that actually the person who was hired all of this stuff and like got this stuff in motion is a casino owner.
Well, no, you're wrong.
I'm wrong.
You just played it and you're wrong.
Okay.
The casino owner didn't arrange any of this. What he did do was get the mercenaries called Cat 6 the suppressor guns.
Oh, that's right. He's an arms dealer. Right.
Yes, he's an arms dealer. So he got them the weapons. And when the weapons turned up on the news, he contacted the person who like commissioned him, I guess.
Yeah. For
the guns to say like, we're done. No more guns for you. Like, I have information on you, so like fuck off.
Yeah.
So Elijah is our link to that person who's behind everything.
That's right. And so we decide to formulate a plan to go get information from him. And they're discussing the layout of this casino a la the final moments of Mass Effect 2, like looking at the schematic. And I love this moment around this table where they're talking about how it has to be someone small to fit. And like they're all passing the buck around the table.
Because they all have like cybernetics and tech and other things.
That will set off the alarms.
It has to fall to Maya, who doesn't have any of that.
And it's funny because it's the classic like action hero moment where like Maya makes a suggestion and then everyone looks at her and she's like, wait, no, not me. I'm just saying in general.
It's a heist.
I also like that the room that they're doing it in the apartment. Like the first time I explored the apartment, I was like, this is a weird dining room with no chairs, like a big table and no chairs. That's because it's the heist planning room.
It's the heist planning room. Every house should have one.
Right.
When John and I have our own house, we are going to have a very specific heist planning room that's going to be hidden behind a bookcase.
Yes,
there.
yeah. I do feel like it needs a bookcase to hide it because they later on and another time when they're using it in the apartment, it's again a room for like people to have like private conversations. It definitely needs a bookshelf or some sort of secret room indicator.
But yes, it is time for Shepard's N7.
A joke we've made before.
Yes, and now it's applicable and like relevant.
Yeah, it does have Ocean's 11 vibes, and you pick one squad mate to come with you because Maya's in your party for this. And so of course I brought my boyfriend.
I brought my boyfriend
because we had to get dressed up fancy.
Yeah,
and we're wearing suits that are much nicer than the original suit that you get to wear in the Kasumi DLC. Like this one looks more elegant. This looks like something I would actually wear. And you walk the red carpet. And it's actually a really fun little moment. Like everyone looks all fancy. Even Maya's hair's down and looking all fancy in a blue dress. It's fun. And you're pretty much told, don't do anything stupid. Go talk to people while Maya does the work. Don't get in trouble.
I'd like to say I don't understand what that red carpet situation was about. You're not anyone famous.
Well, excuse me, you've saved the galaxy twice.
Yeah, nobody knows who you are anyway.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store in the Citadel.
Yeah, people, like, barely know
That's
who you
true.
are. They're just like, who? Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it confused me to have, like, them walking down this red carpet and, like, smile and wave. Who are you waving at? Who cares?
Who's paying attention?
Meanwhile, my boyfriend looks so fancy.
Yeah.
I bet he did.
Mine too.
I feel like the other flip side of this, though, is if we're to believe that they are well known because of their exploits throughout the galaxy, Then why is this the group that's here to do the secret mission at the casino in full public? Like, we put on really gorgeous outfits. Everybody says we look great, but don't draw too much attention to yourself after you get off that red carpet.
Well, I guess it's because Maya's the one that's not known.
That's true.
And you're supposed to really be the distraction throughout all this. So what I like about this mission is that, unlike previous missions, it's actually something different.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually a different mechanic, and it can be a little frustrating sometimes, but I think if you take the time to really look around, it's not that bad. Like, if you try to rush, then that's when it's a problem.
Yeah. So in this, we do a series of stealth and distraction to help Maya when she's in trouble. Distracting guards in the casino, hacking cameras, hacking panels. And it feels like the most organic of any of these kinds of mini games from the previous games. But I will admit that there were a couple of times where I sent Kata to distract a guest or a guard where he'd be real chatty, and I'd be like, "Are you flirting? Are you flirting?"
No, he's just
Do we
Canadian.
need to go have a talk?
He's just Canadian.
Just Canadian. I know it's hard to distinguish. One of Garrus's, like, distracting techniques to be like, "Oh, hi, I need to talk to you. My girlfriend is human," and that made me stop what I was doing to be like, "I'm sorry, what are you about to say to this person? Do I need to stop you?"
Well, remember, he did all that research just to make sure it would be no problem, so...
It's true. So why do you need to ask?
Yeah, you should
someone?
know
You're the
by
king of
now.
research. And please also stop asking Joker for things.
It's never good.
It's a bad idea. I enjoyed this mission, and I wish that I actually took more time to, like, mingle with everyone and explore all the passive conversation. And because I know someone out there is going to email us and be like, "Did you know about this? Yes, I know that Kasumi is at the party. No, I forgot to, like, push the marker to make her, like, appear. I forgot. It's on me. I fucked up. I wanted to get through the mission. I was very focused on what was happening."
And I didn't know that, and I didn't explore enough either. I did, however, find someone that MJ didn't. While I was mingling, I found Shiala.
Yeah, I didn't find Shiala.
The consort, who, when you talk to her, you know, she says hi, and then you go, "It's good to see you again. Do you have any additional words of wisdom?" And she says something along the lines of "kick Reaper ass," which was really fun. Like, that's her wisdom, is go kick their asses. Don't let them win, which I really loved.
There were some good conversations, though. There is this, like, really progressive and personable politician who's there because Elijah Khan is a supporter of hers. But when she tells you all of her views and you're like, "This sounds like you care about people. Do you know who Elijah Khan is?" And she's like, "Oh no, is he dirty?" And you find out that every single person that's tried to support her political career has been, like, a manipulative criminal mastermind.
Oh,
like
no.
Arya, for example, and the Asari Spectre that we fought in the Shadow Broker.
Oh no.
So, like, everyone, and she's just like, I just want to do good things, and I want to take care of people. And you say, "Well, you know, people try to take advantage of you because you're not exactly intimidating." She's like, "I practice glaring in the mirror." I'm just like, "Oh, honey, how many credits can I give you?" I'll support your political career. I feel like you need it. Some other interesting people that I met. There is a Turian named Roland Quarn, and he is like a Robin Hood con artist, and I am kind of in love with him. Do you think Garrus would be open to a polyamorous triad?
Good luck with
Garrus is
that.
pretty open. I don't know. He might be.
Right? He might be. Because I'm kind of in love with Roland Quarn, who is just like, "No, I'm here to fleece all of these rich idiots."
You're speaking my language.
Yes.
You get to have some conversations about the Quasar machines. You can play Quasar if you want, which we've not seen since the first Mass
I hate
Effect.
playing
Yeah, as soon I clicked
I
on it.
know it's blackjack, and I still hate it.
I clicked on it by accident. Once it loaded up the game, I went, no, thank you. And exited out immediately. I don't want to play your fake gambling. I barely like real gambling.
I did do Varan Racing a little bit. I lost, but it still was worth it to see all the excellent Varan names.
I like that there's like multiple games that you can play, and later on you can go back to this casino and play those games also. So if you are somebody who really liked Quasar, now you have a place to literally play it as much as you want.
You can. And Varan Racing and Roulette. And I think there's another one, and I don't know what it is off the top of my head. Let me see. Is there anything else interesting about who you talk to?
There was a mingling moment where you can choose to dance on the dance floor. If you do, your partner dances with you, and Caden is the most adorable dancer.
Aww.
It was the distraction. I think Garrus can do it too.
Yeah, I think so too. I just didn't. I didn't bother dancing. I was distracted trying to talk to people. No time to dance. Yeah, so throughout this whole thing, Maya is working towards getting through to Elijah Khan, and every once in a while she tells you, I need you to do this thing. I need you to go disable this breaker. I need you to go disable this camera. So every once in a while you have to interrupt your mingling and what have you to distract a guard, to disable a camera, to break down this junction box. All the while leading up to you meeting her at Elijah Khan's door.
Yep. Yeah, all of this was to get you into his panic room, and the mini games weren't bad. I thought they were interesting. You know, it's a combination of disabling, seeing the guards like cone of vision, and like distracting them one way or another. It's definitely the most fun of these kinds of mini games we've had.
I kind of wish that the next scene transitioned the vibe of the Citadel from action movie to like murder mystery.
I know.
Oh, yeah. I would have loved that. Oh my god.
You get in, and Maya turns the chair around, and it looks like someone's gotten to Elijah Khan before us.
Yep. Garrus was ready to play bad cop, but alas, he has missed his chance.
Caden also was preparing to be bad cop.
Caden would be a very terrible bad cop.
Oh no, I think Caden said good cop. I think Caden said he was preparing to be good cop, which makes more sense.
That makes more sense. I used a mix of Paragon and Renegade as Shepard, then comes up with different things that Maya didn't think of for how to figure out who's behind this, and tracks the most recent comm signal to the person that they're trying to locate. So they have a conversation.
Yep.
We don't really find anything out. We just have this aggressive talk.
With a
where it's like, I'll get you, Gadget!
Essentially, yeah. It was like talking to Dr. Claw, and the voice is obscured, and the vision is obscured, so we have no idea who we're talking to. And then even after the conversation, we tell Edie to get in and or maybe Shepard just tells them to take the drives for Edie, because Edie can probably scan the drives even if they're wiped to probably find a trace of something.
Because Edie can do anything.
Yep.
And then we're back at the apartment, and that's where we're going to leave it off because we have talked way too much.
Yes, we will be. We'll talk in just a moment about who we're going to cover the next part with. But before that, it is time to jump back into Fandom Corner.
Okay, so Fandom Corner, it's going to be another BioWare store because they are bringing the heat.
Yes, as we record, it is still before the Legendary Edition has released, though we are in the week of the release, so you get a little timeline for when we recorded this. And so they, in the lead up to the release of the Legendary Edition, have put a ton of new stuff on the store.
Today we are talking about the Renegade, Paragon, and Systems Alliance banners. You can get yourself a Renegade or Paragon morality banner so everyone knows exactly what morals your household aligns to.
Yeah. If you don't want to tell people so frankly what morals you have, you can hide it behind a Systems Alliance banner, which is also actually really pretty, and I like the logo. There was an N7 Special Ops banner, but it's sold out. It's out of stock.
Yeah, that's out of stock. I kind of want to get both the Paragon and the Renegade and just switch them out depending on how I'm feeling that day.
Like a certain amount of days without incident sign, except with
and
Renegade Paragon.
And just like put it behind me so that way in my meetings they can see like what my mood is. And when they see it's Paragon, they're like, okay, we're gonna be really diplomatic today. But if they see that it's Renegade, they know, oh, I better be nice. I better behave. Or else I'm gonna get yelled at.
I want you to get it for our recording sessions so I know how mad you're gonna be or how mean you'll be to me.
No, it's a surprise.
So go check those out. They're $15 each, which is not a bad price.
That's actually not a bad price, except their shipping is still horrendous. So wait until there's a lot of things you want, I guess.
Yeah, so you spend less on shipping. But now we will get to our favorite part of the latter part of the season, where we ask Carter to pick a character.
Okay, so this is very difficult. It doesn't mean it's my ultimate favorite, but I would say a character that I really like that is maybe underappreciated is Morden Solus.
All right, we're going to talk about Morden. And Morden's prompt is somewhere on this list. There it is. What songs have you completely memorized? We've talked about this a couple of times. Carter, what song have you completely memorized?
Sadly, not the model of a modern major general like Morden has. But I would say it's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. Like now with the variety of, I can listen to literally any song I want at almost any time on Spotify or some other streaming situation. And that's not always the way it was. I honestly have a part of my brain where I know all the words to like most songs that were on the radio between probably like 1988 and 1998, just because that's all we could hear. So if I had it on audio tape, like the Mariah Carey eponymous album, I know all the words to every song on it.
That's a good answer.
Do you want to share anything else that you know all the words to?
So I can share, I've been recently very obsessed with Ava Max, who's a pop star. She's a bunch of songs on Fuser, which I've been streaming, and her record, I believe it's called Heaven and Hell, or Heaven or Hell. It's one of the two. She has a song, one of the first singles, I believe, was Sweet But Psycho, which is a great pop track, and I'm obsessed with, and I've been singing along to and know all the words for. What about you, MJ?
The song I'm going to brag about is Wobble by Patent Pending, because Matt recently, discovered it, and I'm like, yeah, I've been listening to this nonstop for, an entire year.
Yeah.
I know all the words to it.
Yeah, the 10-year anniversary of when I first met Joe Ragosa, the lead singer of Patent Pending, came up when I briefly checked Facebook, which I hate. And so I shared it on Twitter, where I actually give a crap, and tagged him, and then looked up their Spotify, of course, because I wanted to listen to their stuff, and saw they put out a song last year that I missed. So I've been listening to that as well. They're great. Patent Pending's great. Go listen to Patent Pending.
It was really good, and some of my favorite lines from it are like, "Got me thirsty, baby, you fine wine."
Love it. So cheesy.
It's so cheesy, but it's so good. It's like, I apply my SPF flirty, cause you sunshine. Got me thirsty, baby, you fine wine. 8:30, baby, you prime time.
He's such a dad now. It's great.
I know, and I love everything about it. They did that song with Austin Knight, who I'm not really familiar with, but I really enjoy it. Wobble's a good song. Please listen to Patent Pending, because I think they're great.
They are great. But now it's time to wrap up the episode. MJ, what are we doing in part 2 of this 3-part series?
Okay, so the next part, we are actually going to wrap up the actual mission part of Citadel. We're going to do the archives and the big boss battle. All will be revealed, and we're going to save all the social stuff for our third part. So no parties just yet. On our next episode, for part 2 of our 3-part series, we are going to have my castmate from Deep Magic, Velvet Divine. I'm so excited.
I'm very excited to have Velvet on. So that's what we're doing next. And then, as I mentioned earlier, so I guess I'll repeat it here, part 3 will, of course, be concluded with the Mass Effect fan above all other Mass Effect fans, Leanna Rupert. Carter, why don't you tell folks where they can find you and what you do on the internet?
You know, this I don't have anything for people to follow me on, probably, unlike some of your other guests. So nothing for people to follow me. I would say, what do I play next? That's my next question, is I can't find anything I like as much as this game. So Mass Effect has ruined me.
Dragon Age.
Wait, did you say Dragon Age?
Yes.
I said Dragon Age.
Okay. All right. That's good to know.
You should play Dragon Age next.
You should. That may or may not be the next series we cover. So.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay.
Yes, we will talk off mic about Dragon Age. If you like what you heard here, you can follow us on social media if you're not already. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, Facebook.com/ReignitePod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher if you can. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're also members of the Certain Point of View Podcast Network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server and join in the conversation. Your time to talk about spoilers with me are coming to an end as we are wrapping up Citadel, which I've never played, and then we'll be playing Andromeda, which I've never played. So get those Matt-free conversations in while you can.
We'll find other ways to exclude him. It's fine.
It's fine.
Matt and I work on some other projects. For example, it is now officially Season 3 of Deep Magic, the Changeling the Dreaming game that you can find me on, Archives of the Dragon. It's twitch.tv/Archives of the Dragon. We're also Archives of the Dragon on YouTube. You can see everything we've done before. It is not just me. It is also my spouse, John, Professor John Bradley Lestrange, who you may be familiar with. And as I mentioned, Velvet, who is going to be with us next time, is on the cast, and it's a wild time. It is absolutely, so wild. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have a sword that can rip a portal through space and maybe time. We'll see.
What could possibly go wrong?
Also, my husband lets me use his P.O. Box. If you would like to send us cards or letters, please send that to P.O. Box 4288 in Dunellen, New Jersey, 08812, and I will send you a sticker in return.
I do a bunch of stuff as time allows, including being a featured streamer for Fuser over on twitch.tv/DJ_Stormageddon. If you want to follow me on social, the best place to go is, again, twitter.com/DJ_Stormageddon. But otherwise, if you want to check out all the various projects, support me, buy my merch, all of that fun stuff, go to www.djstormageddon.com. Everything that I work on, you can find there.
We'd like to thank Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble, which features our favorite marshmallow, Kaden Alenko. You can find more of his work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
We'd also like to thank Carter's husband. Yeah, I'm not even going to say your name this time. We'd like to thank Carter's husband for developing more amazing t-shirt designs.
That's his name, Carter's husband, yeah.
Carter's husband. Which are all on certainpov.com or on the direct store for Certain POV on Teespring.
I mean, you guys were joking, but I'm going to change it in our outline to Carter's husband so we can remember to do that.
I mean, he's gotten mail addressed to Mr. Hallett more than once.
Amazing.
As it should be.
We'd also like to thank David Boyle for designing our logo, which you can also get on a shirt through Redbubble. And to finally thank Dan Bull for letting us use the Mass Effect rap for our theme music. Dan Bull, I really need you to get on something for Andromeda, please.
Yeah, we need theme music, and we don't want to stop using yours.
I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And I'm Carter Hallett. We should go.
You're listening to Reignite. I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Hello and welcome to Massively Affected, where I, Josh Silverman, bring on a guest and ask them the not-so-simple question, why Mass Effect? Massively Affected is a podcast dedicated to exploring our personal legacies with Mass Effect. From our origin stories with the series to the impact it had on our lives, everything is on the table when it comes to the series, which includes the trilogy, Andromeda, books, comics, fanfics, and whatever else the future may hold. During the debut first season, I was joined by Reignite's own Matt Storm, as well as a cavalcade of amazing guests, including Kate Sanchez from But Why Though, Greg Haynes of Able Gamers, Ken the Shepherd of Fanbyte and Normandy FM, and many more wonderful guests with Mass Effect stories to tell. Each episode dives into the experience of a guest and myself, and I hope you join us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you may find podcasts. You can share your own stories and find the show on Twitter by searching @MassAffectedPod.
Nostalgia is one of the strongest forces in the human psyche and is responsible for the continued existence of some of our favorite fandoms. From the minds behind the Dole Up in Dreams podcast and Isolation Cast Voices from Quarantine, Saturday Morning Confidential takes you on a deep dive into the properties that helped influence the artists and creators of today. So whether you are a Goonie, a Gem Girl, a Digi-Destined, or you just want to return to Oz, new episodes release on Fridays bi-weekly starting January 1st of 2021, and join us on the Wednesdays after the main show for the Serial Killer Radio Hour, where we sit down with the people responsible for the toys, shows, and fandoms that you love. Now you can find Saturday Morning Confidential at certainpov.com/SMCpod or on your favorite podcast platforms. So don't forget to tune in for another deep dive into the files of Saturday Morning Confidential.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.